My heart raced when my billionaire grandpa smiled and asked if the apartment was comfortable. It was surreal. The golden chandeliers dangled like crystals from a dream, their light casting sharp splashes on the pristine marble floor. I could hear the faint echo of my own heartbeat, each thud a reminder that I was living a life I never imagined. My hands trembled as I looked around, taking in the enormity of the space, a living room bigger than my entire childhood home. Everything screamed wealth, but it felt cold, unfriendly. "Is it to your liking?" he asked again, his voice low and melodious, but something about it sent a shiver down my spine. His blue eyes sparkled like the ocean, hiding secrets that made me uneasy. I wanted to answer honestly, but a lump formed in my throat. It was all too much, the lavishness, the pressure, the sudden shift in our relationship. Growing up, Grandpa was just a figure in the distance, a man wrapped in mystery. He'd send money every birthday and Christmas, but he never visited. I could never shake off the thought that he didn't care, that we were just a footnote in his grand story. And now, he was here, his towering presence overwhelming yet mesmerizing. The idea that I was his family felt both comforting and suffocating. Mom had shared whispers about his past, tales of triumph mixed with tragedy. The family fortune built on passion but stained with betrayal. I never understood the depth until now. With each passing moment, the weight of his legacy pressed harder on my shoulders. "Are you ready to learn the family business?" he asked, casually gesturing towards a sleek desk lined with glossy papers. My pulse quickened. I had only just come to terms with being a part of this world. And yet, here he was, opening a door I wasn't sure I wanted to enter. My gut screamed to run. There was an unexpected thrill in that question. What if I could escape everything I knew? What if this was the chance to rewrite my destiny? But the tension danced around us, tight and foreboding. I could feel his expectations looming like a dark cloud. What if I failed? What if I let him down? The silence stretched painfully as I deliberated, every second ticking loudly in my mind. The weight of my choice settled heavily on my chest. And then, just as I gathered the courage to reply, the distant sound of shattering glass pierced the air, freezing us both. My heart dropped. Was that a warning? A sign of instability? I searched his face for answers, but his expression remained unreadable. And just like that, everything shifted. The air thickened with an unspoken chaos. Was this just the beginning of something unraveling? Or could it be the end before it even started? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sound of shattering glass hung in the air, a haunting echo that seemed to magnify the tension in the room. I held my breath, trying to decipher what the sudden intrusion meant. In that moment, my mind raced, images of my past collided with the present, and uncertainty flooded in, chilling me to my bones. "Stay here," Grandpa commanded, his voice snapping back into authoritative mode. It was a tone I hadn't previously heard from him, revealing a layer of intensity that sent a wave of apprehension through me. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of defiance and fear. Despite my initial hesitance about stepping into his world, a part of me resisted being left behind. Grandpa strode towards the large glass doors that led to a balcony, thick steel framing the exquisite view of the city skyline. I couldn't help but let my imagination wander into dangerous territory. What if, and the thought made my gut twist, what if this evening had less to do with me, and more to do with some underlying turmoil he couldn't escape from? The rhythmic sound of footsteps outside the apartment grew louder, mingling with my growing paranoia. A man emerged from the shadows of the hallway, his face bruised and panic-ridden. The sight felt surreal, plucking at the fabric of my reality. "Sir, you need to see this," he gasped, breathless. His eyes darted towards me, filled with an urgency I couldn't process. The atmosphere shifted. Grandpa's expression darkened, transforming from congeniality to something rawer, more primal. "Not now, Rob," he said tersely, his palm raised as if to dismiss the man. But Rob stepped forward, desperation etched on his face, whispering hurriedly about threats and the family. The words collided with my heart, rattling it like a caged bird. I shifted uncomfortably. The room's luxury transformed into a gilded cage with unseen dangers lurking just beyond the polished surface. Confusion erupted in my mind. I thought I was walking into a fairy tale, a chance to bond with a man I barely knew. Now, I felt like a spectator in a thriller, the stakes higher than I could ever have anticipated. My thoughts spiraled each time I glanced at Grandpa, a man who had summoned me into this world, but now felt guarded, almost feral. I said, "Not now." His voice snapped through me, hard enough to push back any previous sentiments of familial warmth. I recognized something behind his eyes, a fear that spoke of many scars hidden beneath the surface. It occurred to me that beneath the wealth and power, there was a man, fragile in his own right, wrestling with forces I couldn't comprehend. Rob stepped back, visibly shaken. "But sir, it's the investors. They're demanding answers." Threats were made. "They're not happy with the direction." Grandpa's fist clenched at his side. "Calm down. We'll handle this." My pulse quickened, and I wasn't sure if the thrill was from fear or a dawning realization. My presence here was now wrapped in insurmountable complexity. Maybe I should go, I hesitated, my voice small as it cut through the tension. I felt the weight of the walls closing in around me, their extravagance mocking my sudden anxiety. "No." Grandpa's voice jolted me. His gaze was fierce, layered with an intensity one had never viewed as protective, more desperate than I cared to admit. "You're not leaving. This is your home now." Home? The word felt foreign in this moment, a taunt against the storm gathering in the distance. I looked towards Rob, who stood entrenched in uncertainty, as if waiting for the air to clear. What could I offer in a world of billion-dollar deals and impenetrable dynamics? The heart-racing feeling shifted from excitement to dread, darkness looming just out of focus. Then, I caught a glimpse of something in the distance, another figure approaching. A woman, slight in frame, dressed in a simple yet elegant attire, moved with purpose toward us. I couldn't see her face clearly, but there was an air of determination wrapped around her like a cloak. What was she doing here? I exchanged a fleeting glance with Grandpa, but there was a fleeting flicker of recognition across his face that told me this was no mere coincidence. "Evelyn," his voice softened, eyes widening with a complex mix of emotions. And in that brief second, something stirred within me. The richness of this moment, heavy with unspoken history and fragility, began to weave yet another layer into the fabric of what I thought was my destiny. Then it struck me an ache, a longing to understand, to untangle the web that had ensnared me so tightly. Whatever storm was brewing around us, I was now thrust into the eye of it, powerless to escape its grasp. But before I could fully process the implications of the woman's arrival, another crash echoed, louder this time, something much closer to the heart of our turmoil. My breath hitched in my throat, and I felt a jolt of icy realization grip my core. The facade was cracking, and the fractures were spreading. In this pristine, fractured world of opportunity and shadows, I was left standing at the precipice with no knowledge of what lay ahead. Would I be dragged into the storm, or could I carve my own path? And just as my curiosity began to tickle the edges of bravery, the woman stepped in, her voice ringing clear, offering either salvation or a new danger. "Grandpa, they're coming," she warned, as the weight of her words hung heavily in the air, suffocating me with layers of complexity. My world, once unfamiliar yet vibrant, was now a haunting labyrinth I had no choice but to navigate. The game had changed, and I was standing right in the middle of it. The tension in the room thickened even further with Evelyn's chilling proclamation. I could hear my heartbeat, a relentless thrum that seemed to drench the silence in fear. Grandpa's expression morphed again, his warm familiarity, stripped away like bark from a weathered tree, revealing raw emotion that oscillated between defiance and dread. "Evelyn, what do you mean they're coming?" He stepped forward, closing the distance between them, the frame of his body like a shield against the unknown. She didn't flinch, though I caught a glimpse of vulnerability in her eyes, as if she herself had wrestled with her own demons. "They're not just threats anymore, Marcus," she said, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. "They've taken steps to ensure compliance. Their patience is wearing thin compliance?" My voice emerged unexpectedly, shock piercing the middle of our quiet chaos. "What do you mean? You're talking about investors, right? What could they possibly want from us?" Evelyn turned toward me, her gaze intense. "It's more than just investments. This is about control, family legacy, and power. If they don't get what they want, they'll come after everything you hold dear, including you." The sudden weight of her words settled like rocks in my stomach. I stood immobile, suspended between the clarity of danger and the murky waters of my own naivete. This wasn't the fairy tale I had envisioned. No princely greetings, no elaborate feasts, but threats lurking just beneath the surface like sharks in murky waters. A flicker of unease turned into a burgeoning wave, and I suddenly felt like I was on a precarious seesaw of choice. On one side, the past I had tried so hard to connect with, and on the other, a future that whipped about like the wind, wild and unpredictable. "That's enough, Evelyn." Grandpa's voice surged back into the mix with the force of an unexpected tide, pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. "You can't tell her this. She deserves to remain untouched by our troubles." "Untouched?" Evelyn's voice rose sharply, her brow furrowing in disbelief. "You really think that's possible? This is bigger than any of us. You have to face this before it consumes everyone." Consumed. The word was a dagger that sank deep, erupting a flurry of questions: who was coming for us? And why? My gaze darted back and forth between them, searching for a hint of clarity, something to anchor me in the chaos. Before I could voice my mounting concerns, another crash resonated from outside, a resonant boom that rattled the windows like a shaken bottle of soda. The world outside seemed light years away, yet dangerously close, tinged with foreboding. "Go to the safe room," Grandpa commanded, steel creeping back into his voice. Now, my feet felt as though they were rooted firmly in place, hesitation colliding with instinct. My heart screamed to understand, to demand the truth behind the veil that obscured this life I had unwittingly stepped into. But as I opened my mouth to protest, I sensed a hand grasp mine, cool and steady. Evelyn was at my side, her presence grounding in a whirlwind of disorientation. "Do as he says. You need to be safe." The authority in her voice made me relent. Dread swirled within, but there was also an ember of resolve igniting a belief that hope could be found within the chaos. Instead of retreating to a corner, shrouded in fear and doubt, I felt a stirring urge to acknowledge my place in this convoluted story. Holding Evelyn's hand firmly, I allowed her to lead the way as we slipped silently toward the hallway. As we moved, I glanced back at Grandpa, whose face was a spectral collage of anguish and determination. There was a truth that flickered in his eyes, a story I still hadn't unraveled. That perhaps he had shielded me from the severity of his world for too long. That we stumbled into the narrow corridor, and I heard the faintest whir of digital clinks and whirs in the distance, mechanical, methodical, unnerving. Then, just as I began to feel the panic lift, another sound came, a dull thud followed by voices, angry and insistent, echoing through the hallowed halls of the only home I thought I would know. "What is happening?" I whispered, panic surging back as I turned to Evelyn, seeking the calm energy that had steadied me just moments before. She hesitated, biting her lip, the weight of this moment no less hefty than the first. "If they've breached the outer security, we must prepare ourselves. He is doing all he can. But the stakes are rising, and we must trust him," she urged, the strength in her voice wavering slightly. Just as her words settled, the door at the end of the hall rattled furiously, and I felt my breath hitch. From the other side came the unmistakable voice of Rob, laden with urgency, but it wasn't just panic that punctuated his speech. It was desperation. "Marcus, Evelyn, we have to move now." That singular cry shattered any residual semblance of safety I had left. My heart raced, the weight of uncertainty spiraling. In that moment, it hit me with a vividness that nearly brought me to my knees. I was immersed in a reality that could unravel at any moment. Evelyn gripped my hand tighter as she urged me forward, her resolve acting as a lifeline as we pressed onward into the unknown. I felt the desperation coursing through me, an amalgam of fear and a nudging curiosity. With every step, I felt closer to understanding but also closer to the edge, where the complexity of my past collided with a reality so treacherous. I couldn't help but think that perhaps the true storm was just beginning to brew. Suddenly, a flash of light illuminated the corridor from behind us, accompanied by shouts that echoed through the apartment, freezing me in place. I knew we were being cornered, each passing second tightening the vice of uncertainty around us. Then came a voice that shattered everything I thought I knew. Marcus. I turned to see another figure emerging, cloaked in shadow yet shining in recognition, and my breath caught. It was someone from my past but reconfigured, twisted in this new reality that felt richer yet overwhelmingly emptier. The complications of love and family that I had only grazed against were now stripped bare, a revelation that could either save us or consume me whole. Just as hope flickered, uncertainty clutched at the edges, hinting that the true fight was almost upon us, and I was unsure if I would emerge whole or shattered amidst the chaos. The world around me spun, a whirlwind of confusion and dread that blurred the line between reality and some eerie waking nightmare. The last glimmer of hope I held was now overshadowed by the figure stepping forward from the shadows. Marcus. It's me. The voice dripped with familiarity, threading through my fragmented thoughts like a ghost intruding on the living. Clarity suddenly erupted as I recognized the speaker. Julia, my childhood friend, the girl whose laughter used to feel like sunshine illuminating my darkest days. Yet here she stood, transformed by circumstances I could barely comprehend, her eyes alive with an urgency that set my heart racing anew. What are you doing here? I managed to stammer, the weight of disbelief stifling my words. I almost reached out to grasp her, to anchor myself in the security of her presence. But doubt held me back. The room around us pulsed with tension, the angry shouts in the distance, the heavy footsteps closing in. Evelyn's grip on my hand tightened, her presence firmly planted beside me as she assessed the new arrival. Julia, she said cautiously, scanning her face for signs of danger or disguise. What do you know? Everything, Julia replied, her voice steady yet tinged with emotion. I can't stay long. They're searching for you, Marcus. And Grandpa he's in trouble. You have to trust me. The words hung just above us, pulsating in the air as fears swelled like tidal waves, crashing against the shores of my mind. I blinked, trying to reconcile the girl who brought joy into my life with the gravity of the situation surrounding us. But how did you find me? Why are you here? You shouldn't have come. I breathed out, panic lacing each syllable. Julia moved closer, a fierce light igniting in her hazel eyes. You don't understand. The investors, they're not just looming threats, Marcus. They're actively excavating your family's past. They've uncovered things, deep dark truths that could fracture everything you hold dear. I had to get to you before it was too late, before the noose around your grandfather tightened. He has been a target since the day you were born. Evelyn sidestepped, leaving a space for Julia to step into this tumultuous moment, her expression wavering between recognition and apprehension. The house groaned, and the echoes of shouts grew closer, as turbulent as the tempest raging within me. Suddenly, every childhood moment with Julia morphed into something heavier, more significant. The laughter we shared turned into a haunting melody of shared memories. I was stunned into silence, grappling with the enormity of her words. What secrets lay hidden within the family legacy I longed to uncover? And how could I face the reality of everything I had so naively desired? We don't have time, Julia pressed, urgency etched across her features. You need to understand, everyone you thought was on your side isn't. There are plans in motion. They're not playing games, Marcus. You're a pawn in a greater chess match, and I'm not sure how far they're willing to go. Panic consumed me momentarily as my mind swirled with devastating implications. I could lose Grandpa. the anchor that had represented a love I thought was unshakable, and it collided with the dreadful possibility of losing Julia again. The emotional instability within me precipitated an inevitable foil between attachment and fear, the looming specter of betrayal tainting the strength of our bonds. Evelyn moved closer, weaving herself between Julia and me, her aura radiating a fierce protectiveness. "What are you planning to do?" she asked, voice steady despite the chaos that seemed to pulse through every wall. I have information." Julia hesitated, her gaze darting. "There's a safe house, someone I know who can help. But we have to leave now. If they find us here, I can't guarantee your safety." The weight of her admission sucked the breath from my lungs. The uncertainty of our future loomed deadlier than ever. But in that uncertain space, a flicker of hope ignited anew. Perhaps Julia could guide us, could shed help, illuminate the shadows that hemmed in our reality, a path to reprieve. "Go," I commanded, my voice stronger than I felt. "Lead the way. We can't let them trap us." A thunderous slam echoed against the front door, vibrating the wooden floor beneath our feet. I felt urgency coil tightly around my chest, squeezing the breath from me. But as I turned back to meet Julia's chanting eyes, I took a moment, considering. Here stood two women whose presence wove a complicated tapestry through my life, struggling against an unseen enemy. Before Julia could move, a flash of pain passed across her face, a split-second vulnerability that rendered me vulnerable too. "Marcus," she breathed, desperation lacing her words. "You have to believe me. If they find out the truth, it's not just you and your family at stake. This isn't just about your world. Their reach it's even broader than you think." The tension in the air shifted, electrifying and terrifying, a revelation darker than the night pressing at the edges of the windows. My heart thundered, weighing the differences between safety and truth. Another violent bang resonated from the front, splintering the fleeting moment of hope. This was the beginning of the fight that had been looming, not just for my family's legacy, but for my very existence. In that instant, I felt it, the depth of the unknown about to collapse over me, but there, glimmering just below the surface, was an undeniable sense of purpose. "Let us, then," I said, barely able to choke through the growing fear. Seeing confusion in Julia's gaze prompted a wave of determination to wash away the swirling doubts. "You're right. We need to act, and if this is the path you believe will lead us to safety, then let us do it." With a nod, Julia turned to direct us through the chaos with a resolve I had longed to emulate. I felt my heart race, caught between the shelter of the past and the treacherous unknown ahead. This was no longer just my fight. This was our fight. That as we moved down the corridor, each step reverberated not only with urgency, but with the unforeseen challenges that would come crashing down upon us. Standing behind Julia, I glimpsed a fleeting smile from Evelyn, acknowledgement flickering between her and Julia, reconciliation wrought from chaos. And as we approached the stairway that led to our escape, the sound of the front door splintering reverberated through the walls, an untamed herald of the storm waiting to unleash. The truth was around the corner, lurking. It was both terrifying and exhilarating, grappling at the edges of my mind with the promise of revelation. And I had no choice but to push onward into the embrace of uncertainty. It was either that or face the truth of being ensnared by the very shadows that called my family home. The stairway creaked beneath our hurried steps, the faint flicker of candlelight casting wavering shadows on the walls. With every echo, I could almost hear the whispers of those brave enough to venture into the depths of uncertainty before us. My heart thundered not just from fear, but from the frantic energy coursing through our makeshift band, as we wrestled with the weight of the night's revelations. "Julia, what did you mean when you said their reach is broader than I think?" I finally broke the silence, my voice trembling as much from apprehension as from curiosity. She glanced back, her expression a tapestry of urgency and fear. "It's not just business corruption. There are forces at play here, Marcus, old factions that have held sway over families like yours for generations. The investors, they're looking for hidden ties that run deeper than you can imagine. Your family holds secrets, some valuable, but others dangerous. They can manipulate everything, even lives." Evelyn, still right beside me, tightened her grip on my arm. Her silent encouragement grounded me, reminding me that I was not alone in this tempest. Voices crashed around us, rapidly closing the distance, a persistent reminder of the imminent danger surrounding us. Why didn't you tell me before? The words slipped out bitterly, and a wave of regret washed over me for questioning Julia's intentions. I thought I knew everything about my family, because those who hold power don't share their stories, and I had to uncover the truth without drawing attention to myself. She rushed. I didn't even want to believe it until I had to. I'm sorry, Marcus. I thought I could help you before it came to this. There was a heaviness to her confession, a burden we both shared in the shadows of the past. I could almost taste the salt of my own bitterness, the realization that I had grown up sheltered while danger lurked dangerously close. The darkness surrounding our expedition deepened, an inky blanket wrapping tighter around us as we reached the landing at the top of the stairs. I paused for a heartbeat, steeling myself against the tempests of anguish and uncertainty. It was rapidly becoming clear that the truth I had so desperately sought was twisted in a web of deception and peril. What now? I whispered hoarsely, the echo of our heartbeat the only sound in that moment. Julia breathed heavily, glancing down the narrow corridor that stretched before us. There's a window at the end that leads out to the fire escape. It'll lead us down to the alley and out of sight. But we have to move, fast. We pressed forward, eluding the warm gleam of incandescent lights spilling from the windows that flanked our path, each step daring to assume that we were inches away from freedom and yet a heartbeat away from catastrophe. As we approached the window, I caught sight of our reflection in the glass, a fragmented trio, each face a narrative of resolve and fear. Just as I was about to reach out and push it open, I caught a glimpse of movement beyond, something shifting in the darkness outside. Marcus. Evelyn's voice sliced through the confusion like a blade. She had spotted it too, the hulking silhouette of a man waiting below, eyes scanning the area with predatory precision. We're not safe here. Move! The window creaked ominously as I lifted it, but footing on the fire escape would soon be vulnerable. Time was like sand, slipping through our fingers, ticking down toward some unthinkable climax. As we crawled out one by one, I felt the icy grip of fear weaving around my throat. Just as I swung my leg over the edge, I could hear a roar of voices spilling into the hall below, a cacophony of threats, orders, and a sinister laughter that rumbled through the air like a warning bell. My heart stuttered. They were here, closing in like wolves hungry for prey. Evelyn slid out beside me, urgency pushed her along. There was no turning back now. Surrender was a fate that could not be contemplated. I was all too aware of the vulnerabilities that came with being the heir of a legacy shrouded in darkness. The chill of the metal beneath my feet jolted me from reverie, just as Julia scrambled out behind us. The metal frame of the fire escape rattled under the weight of our fear, threatening to betray us with every panicked breath. Go, go! Julia hissed, her voice barely above the breath of the night. We need to get far away before they realize we're gone. We descended rapidly, urgency clawing at our throats as shadows flickered and danced below us. Suddenly, from the corner of my eye, I detected another presence. A figure cloaked in darkness loomed below, alert and waiting. No! Stop! I shouted without thinking, a reflexive instinct propelled by dread. With my heart pounding, a desperate hope sparked within me, entwined with the realization that our escape hinges on the very threads of truths I was just beginning to uncover. What if the answer lies not merely in fleeing but in confronting these unseen adversaries head-on? The moment stretched in a paradox. Could courage illuminate the way, or would it plunge us deeper into the abyss? Before I could consider another thought, the figure below turned toward us, the dim light shining on his face. My stomach dropped as recognition surged like a tidal wave. It was David, my estranged cousin, the last person I expected to see here, yet fear gripped me more tightly. Marcus, he yelled, his voice strained. You have to listen to me. They're coming for us. In that moment of chilling uncertainty, everything stood suspended as the ground beneath us seemed to shift. The path before me had just taken an unexpected and dangerous turn, truth meeting betrayal in a desperate dance. And now the consequences wove tighter around us like a noose. Would I trust another familiar face in a world littered with deception? Get down. Hurry. David shouted again, urgency lacing his tone. The fragile thread of hope twisted with uncertainty, entangling me in a web of conflicting emotions I couldn't untangle. And just like that, I was caught in the throes of another unwelcome revelation, the night darkening as choices converged threateningly close. Would I fall into the trap? Or would this unexpected reunion illuminate a way out of the chaos? I stood on the precipice of a decision, heart pounding madly against the marrow of uncertainty, teetering between trust and treachery as the storm surged relentlessly forward. I hesitated at the edge of the fire escape, my eyes locked onto David's face, a mixture of relief and suspicion flooding my veins. The pang of childhood memories churned within me, time spent in laughter, shadowed by a prior separation that felt like a chasm between us now. His presence was a double-edged sword, a reminder of what once was and a harbinger of what I was never fully prepared to face. What do you mean they're coming for us? I shouted back, desperation edging my voice. My grip on the cold, rusted railing tightened, securing the form of the decision I was dangerously close to making. The wind whispered through the alley, carrying with it the faint sounds of chaos boiling up from the depths of the building behind us. They know you're missing. The partners, they're ruthless, and they want your family's secrets, Marcus. You have to trust me. David's eyes were wild, burning with urgency, and for a heartbeat, the fear in his tone pierced my skepticism like a dagger. Evelyn squeezed my arm, grounding me further in this tempest of conflict. I could feel her breathing, steady yet quickening. Marcus, we don't have much time, she urged. It was the kind of primal instinct to flee that was hard to shake in this moment. Yet the echoes of our childhood, the laughter, the shared family gatherings tugged at my heartstrings. Was I truly willing to leave him behind, or could I pull David into this mess I had unwittingly inherited? My throat constricted as the shadows cast deeper than I expected, and my inner turmoil swirled like the night mist around us. With a hesitant nod, I gestured for him to hurry, feeling a wave of fear mixed with solidarity. He scrambled up the fire escape, the metal screeching beneath our hurried movements as he reached my side. I've been trying to find you, David panted as he joined us, the urgency of our situation carving deeper lines of connection into the frayed fabric of our family history. You don't understand, Marcus. There are things I found out about our family, about the people behind those investments. It's bigger than you think it always has been. Like what? The question tumbled out before I could stop myself, each word laden with fear and an unquenchable thirst for the truth. Would knowing somehow liberate me? He glanced at Evelyn, then back at me, weighing his words carefully. The investors are tied to something darker. They've made deals before deals that ruined lives, shattered families. They'll do whatever it takes to keep the past buried, including coming after you. The words settled like ash in my gut. A shudder ran through me, the reality of our predicament crashing heavier than I could bear. I was swimming in a sea of shadows, the depths pricking my skin with anxiety in every direction. What did I truly know about my family? How deep did the roots of their legacy run? Before I could wrap my head around it, a loud crash erupted from inside, the unmistakable sound of a door being violently flung open. My stomach sank. They were closer than I thought. Marcus, we need to leave now, David urged, his expression tightening with dread. But in the chaos of my swelling thoughts, a flicker of hope sparkled. Had David returned to help? After all this time of estrangement? Had he ignited some unintentional kinship hidden beneath the hurt? With my heart pounding, I made the choice to trust him for now. I flicked my gaze to Julia and Evelyn, their faces taut with a blend of fear and resolve. We need to find a way to get out of here together. Just as I turned back to face the alley, my heart lurched. An unexpected glimmer of light beckoned from a nearby side door. Over there, I shouted, adrenaline hijacking my senses as I motioned towards it. Let us go. We sprinted towards the door, the weight of our footsteps thundering against the pavement as we neared, our escape a feverish flight for salvation. And then, just as we reached for the handle, the door swung open to reveal another shadowed figure inside this time, cloaked in well-tailored darkness and a smirk that sent chills racing down my spine. Well, said the figure, a coolness sliding into his voice as he recognized me midst the frantic chaos. It seems the family reunion has become quite the spectacle. I froze, heart lurching. It was Nathaniel, my father's brother, the estranged uncle entrenched in a world where trust was but a mere currency. The wolf closing in on its prey. "What are you doing here?" I gasped, blood rushing cold as he stepped further into the light, the gleam in his eyes promising nothing but mischief and secrets yet untold. "Oh, Marcus," Nathaniel replied, unfazed by my dread. "You have so much to learn about your family. And that includes what happens if you try to run away." Panic swept in again, swallowing my courage whole as David and I exchanged horrified glances. Had he been waiting all along, playing us like pawns in a sinister game? As the shadows closed in, I realized I stood not just at a crossroads of decisions, but at the brink of revelations that lay intertwined with the darkness of my lineage. The fight to uncover the truth had never seemed more perilous, and I was left teetering on the edge of blood ties that could very well drown me. With no path visible, we were cornered in the throes of shadows. Only a desperate gasp could escape me as I faced the man who could redefine everything I thought I knew about my family. The night deepened, but the war was just beginning. Panic skittered beneath my skin as Nathaniel's figure loomed larger, the glint of his calculated smirk igniting a fear I had no practice in managing. The darkness of the alley felt alive, the walls looming in like a tightening noose. "You don't have to do this," I found myself whispering, the words spilling out in a blend of desperation and unsteady hope. "Oh, but I do," Marcus, Nathaniel cooed, moving further into the light, illuminating his tailored suit that contrasted sharply with the shadows. "You've disrupted the balance. Family secrets, darling, are meant to stay hidden, lest they cause more chaos than you can fathom." Behind me, Evelyn shivered, her hand gripping my arm as if I were her lifeline. "What does he want?" she murmured, her voice thin, edged with fear. David positioned himself protectively in front of us, tension coiling tightly in his stance. "Attention, mostly," Nathaniel replied, his tone casual, as though we were engaged in a benign family discussion rather than standing at the precipice of something sinister. He raised an eyebrow, amusement dancing in his dark eyes. "And perhaps your cooperation. After all, the higher we climb, the more unstable the ground beneath us becomes." His words were a shackle, wrapping around my mind as memories of whispered truths and fragmented stories from childhood filtered through. The fables of wealth, power, and unspoken regret held a morbid fascination, the bits and pieces floating from our family gatherings now painted a more vivid, chilling portrait. "What do you want with us?" David's voice broke through my troubled thoughts, fierceness mingling with underlying anxiety. Nathaniel turned to him, a mocking smile creasing his sharp features. "You, my dear brother's son, are an unexpected variable in this trite equation. Perhaps I should have anticipated this little reunion long before." He stepped closer, the distance between us shrinking to a mere breath. I could feel the weight of his gaze, threading through the darkness, tugging at the buried questions swimming beneath my surface. "Your father is notorious for his secrets, Marcus, and those secrets," he paused, as if savoring the dread he was instilling. "They have a way of unveiling themselves, don't they?" "Stop," I whispered, my voice fractured and laden with dread. "You can't just manipulate this situation. We're not pawns to be played with." But deep inside, doubt gnawed at the edges of my courage. Had I ever really known my father? The foundations of my reality felt as if they were crumbling beneath me, each revelation more shocking than the last. "Oh, but you do. You always have been." His voice dropped, wrapping around my vulnerabilities like a vine. "Your very existence is wrapped tightly in the web of our family's legacy, a legacy that values power above all else. And it's strengthening. You can either embrace it or watch as it swallows you whole. The choice is simple, Marcus." A chilling silence fell. The chaotic sounds of the night dimmed behind us, the rabble of footsteps, the distant sirens falling away, leaving only the echo of Nathaniel's words reverberating through my mind. Evelyn tugged at my arm, a silent plea for us to escape, to break free from this mental entrapment. I glanced at David, whose eyes mirrored back a tumult of feelings erupting from everyone. Fear, rage, but beneath it an undeniable sense of connection forged through shared adversity. And there it was, the sudden warmth of small gestures amidst the cold dread. As if sensing the turmoil of our entrenching plight, a street vendor at the edge of the alley unexpectedly stepped into view, a steaming cup of coffee in hand. He spotted us, his brows furrowing with concern at our distressed expressions. "You all right?" he called out, his voice cutting through the heavy tension. For just a fleeting moment, the heaviness of our reality lifted. It was a gentle reminder of kindness, a soft thread of hope weaving through the consuming darkness. But Nathaniel's next words snapped my gaze back to him. They were laced with an unsettling edge. "How adorable," he remarked, indicating the vendor with a dismissive wave. "Nothing like a little coffee to distract from the chaos of your bloodline." The sense of urgency returned tenfold as the weight of it all congealed into a single moment of resolve. "We can't stand here," I whispered fiercely to David and Evelyn. "Unify us in purpose against the prevailing shadows. We can't let him win." With that, I spun around, ready to bolt for the unseen escape routes. But before any of us could act, Nathaniel's voice dropped to a low murmur, echoing through the alley like a dark melody. "Flee if you must, dear Marcus. But remember, you cannot outrun the truth. It is as persistent as the very blood that courses through your veins." And before I could take another step, he revealed a small piece of paper from his pocket, its corners worn and edges curling. And with that simple act, an entire world shifted beneath my feet. "Perhaps it's time for you to read what your father wouldn't dare share with you. Let us see how well you can absorb the history buried within your legacy." In a quick motion, he tossed the paper towards me, and I watched as it slowly drifted down, the weight of it heavy with unspoken consequences. The yard felt infinite and yet so painfully small as I stared at the crisp edges, my heart pounding a new revelation that might expose a darkness deeper than I had already known lay just within my grasp. With adrenaline coursing, I caught the paper, trembling as I turned it over. The words spilled forth like an unrelenting tide, and I could sense nothing but uncertainty tethering me at that moment. There wasn't time to breathe, not anymore, and as fluid and chaotic as the evening had been, I knew life would never unfold the same again. Each choice I was about to make could either shatter everything I was or piece together the truth waiting patiently beneath the shadows of my family's past. Around me, the urgency trembled in the air, electrifying my thoughts into action. A choice was brewing inside me, but which path would I take? In that heavy moment of uncertainty where hope flickered on the outskirts of despair, I realized I was no longer just running from Nathaniel. I was running towards the truth, and whatever lay behind it could change us forever. The asphalt beneath my feet felt like quicksand, the very ground spiraling away from me as I clutched that piece of paper. Nathaniel's laughter dissolved into the alley's shadows, yet it echoed in my ears like a haunting melody. The ambience of the night twisted, morphing into a panorama of dread and desperation, as I struggled to wrap my mind around what lay not just ahead, but also tangled within the fibers of my family's tainted legacy. The paper was delicate but heavy with implications. I could almost feel it pulsing in my hands, vibrating with promises of revelations and the burden of knowing. Each breath I took tasted like iron, brimming with anxiety. I wanted to unfold its truths there and then, to consume every detail it concealed, yet a primal sense of fear yanked me back. What lay within those inked lines? Would it shred the little fragments of hope I clung to, or could it perhaps mend the chaos Nathaniel threatened to unleash? "Marcus, we need to go." Evelyn's voice pulled me back to reality, her grip still anchored to my arm. She glanced warily at Nathaniel, the predatory gleam in his eyes simmering with triumph and cunning, and I felt a surge of protective instinct wash over me. She was a sanctuary within the storm, and I couldn't afford to let her down. "Yes, let us move," David added, glancing over his shoulder as if sensing imminent danger. The tension holding us captive felt sharp against my skin, a storm brewing and threatening to break. Caught between two frightful forces, the suffocation of the secrets I had yet to unveil and the looming threat of my uncle, I made a decisive shift. "I need 1 minute," I said, My voice suddenly raw, almost desperate in its plea. Just give me 1 minute. Evelyn and David exchanged glances of confusion, but I saw the spark of concern in their eyes. They didn't want to lose me to Nathaniel, and yet I couldn't leave without knowing what that paper held. The urgency swelled within me. I was a pendulum teetering just before its fall. Marcus, don't Evelyn started, but I began to unfold the paper, half aware that I was stepping into unknown waters, where the currents could easily sweep me away. The words scrolled long and tedious, fading ink forming sentences that felt foreign yet hauntingly familiar. With every line, I felt the past clawing its way back into the present, the twisted histories woven through my bloodline, born from ambition, lust, and a fierce obsession for power. Among those grisly tales, names leapt from the page like specters, swirling around me. Familiar faces danced in my mind, tainted with the shared blood that also bound me tightly to Nathaniel's world of manipulation. Marcus David's voice broke through, laced with instinctual protectiveness. We need to leave. This isn't worth it. Ignoring the rising flicker of anxiety within me, I plunged deeper into the narrative, searching for pieces of truth that might help me understand the chaos Nathaniel so delighted in. But instead of clarity, I found an abyss, a frayed rope suddenly stretching toward darker revelations. My chest constricted as I read a damning passage about betrayals woven into the very pillars of our family's wealth, like cobwebs spun silently in the shadows. Do you really want to read that? Nathaniel's voice cut through the desperation, smooth and sinister. It's merely the tip of an iceberg, my dear Marcus. I'd hate for you to drown in it. Everything within me ignited a surge of anger and protectiveness surging to the surface. No, Nathaniel. I want to be manipulated by you. The words tore from me with the rawness of a wound laid bare. Ah, but you already are, he murmured, stepping forward, the shadows coiling around him like an affectionate pet. You always have been drawn to chaos, just like your father. His words coiled around my heart, squeezing tighter. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of sirens echoed, a reminder of the world beyond this alley. But in this moment, all that existed was Nathaniel, the paper, and the uncharted territory of the truth waiting to drown me. And yet, hope flickered. The shadow of the street vendor lingered in my mind, his concern anchoring me to a kind of humanity that felt all too real even amidst the oppressive darkness. Life persisted outside of this chaos, where small acts of kindness bloomed in unlikely places. Just tell me the truth, Nathaniel, I challenged, voice trembling with a mix of defiance and fear. If I am a pawn in this game, then let me understand the rules. He smirked, a delight in those dark eyes that felt almost familial. Very well, if it's truth you crave. But before he could speak, a shout resonated from the entrance of the alley, piercing through my fragile moment. Marcus, David, Evelyn, where are you? The voice, sharp and commanding, was unmistakable. It was my father. The reality of who he truly was, the man hidden behind walls of indifference, shocked through me, tearing at the fragile threads of my calm. My gaze flicked to Nathaniel, and a new layer of uncertainty crept in, replacing the storm of courage that suddenly vanished in that heartbeat. As time slowed, I realized it wasn't just the truth on the cusp of revelation, but an emotional bomb waiting to detonate. Nathaniel's eyes narrowed, the panic shifting from my being to him. Marcus, he gritted, the facade momentarily slipping. If he finds you here, you'll lose everything. Suddenly, I was no longer just grappling with legacy. I was wrestling with choices that would ripple far beyond my immediate world. Each whisper, each revelation, and every burden was a nail in a coffin that could trap me forever or perhaps, with effort, set me free. And so, the truth stood as a double-edged sword, poised for a swift strike. Would I charge ahead towards it? Or would I summon the resolution to flee before the real battle began? In the face of uncertainty, the echo of my father's voice locked me into place, and dread clawed to the surface, a pressing reminder that the ties that bound me were darker than I had ever imagined. The cliff I stood upon was steep, its edges crumbling beneath my feet. The sirens shrieked like banshees, their wailing underscoring the tension coiling around us like smoke. My heart thudded painfully against my ribcage, merging dread with a frantic hope that if this moment shattered, it might reveal something deeper beneath the surface. Nathaniel stood there, cloaked in shadows and treachery, while the tumult of my father's initial surprise laid like a weighty anchor around my neck. "Marcus," my father's voice cut through, crackling with authority and unmistakable urgency. "Get away from him." The words clanged in the air like a bell's toll, ricocheting in the confines of the alley. Nathaniel's smirk fell away, replaced by a mask of calculated menace. "Ah, the loyal protector arrives." He cast a glance at me, that flicker of danger igniting a fire in my gut. "I'm not a pawn, Nathaniel." I shot at him, grounding my voice in determination despite the tremble of my hands. "Still so naive," he retorted, eyes narrowing. I felt every ounce of his disdain pouring into those words, heavy like the storm clouds overhead. "Your father doesn't see you as anything more than an extension of himself. You're a means to an end." "Shut up," I spat, and the defiance surged through my veins like a rising tide. Anger had become my ally, growing louder than the cacophony that filled the air between us and the distance. My father's footsteps echoed off the alley walls, growing closer, thundering like a warning drum. "It's time to leave, Marcus," he insisted, conflict wrestling beneath his voice. "Not before I understand." I shot back. My hands tightened around the paper that seemed to be burning against my skin. A beacon of truth, but also a scroll of curses. Nathaniel leaned closer, his voice chillingly soft. "Are you sure you want to unearth the truth? The cost will be high, Marcus. Have you pondered the collateral damage?" Before I could respond, a wave of warmth brushed against me from behind a rapid, comforting touch on my shoulder. It was Evelyn, her presence a lifeline in murky waters. "Marcus, we need to get you out of here," she said urgently, though her eyes held a plea. "We can talk later. Right now it's just dangerous." David sidled in beside her, his brow furrowed, clearly worried. "You're getting involved in a war bigger than any of us. We have to leave." Amidst them, the specter of my father grew stronger, demanding my attention. Each step echoed the fragility of the moment, rippling through my consciousness not as a mere warning but an absolute truth that wrapped around me. With them beside me, I experienced a rush of hope that I could break the cycle of this madness. But as that realization threatened to crystallize, Nathaniel's grip on my mind tightened. "You think you can escape so easily?" He taunted, confidence threading through the danger of his words. "What I offer you is power, Marcus. A chance to reign. You misunderstand your father. There's a specific purpose he has chosen for you." My heart sank as doubts clawed their way back in, sharp and insistent. Could I trust my father? Was he truly the man I wanted to believe he was? Or was he just another player in this twisted game? Evelyn pressed closer, anchoring me with her gaze. "We have to go, Marcus. Now." Her voice seeped with urgency, pulling me back from the brink of Nathaniel's dark promise. "Those truths you cling to, they will shatter everything you hold dear." Nathaniel's last words echoed, a haunting specter as we began to retreat, the exit from that alleyway feeling like a split-second breath before plunging into icy waters. Fear chased us as we turned to face the safety of the moonlit street. But the weight of my family's legacy remained tethered to my heart, a chain that wrapped tighter with each step I took away from Nathaniel. All the while, my father's face flickered in my mind, the familiar lines suddenly warped with uncertainty. As we spilled out into the bustling street, chaos danced around us, a symphony of lights and sights, but my mind blinkered with a singular question. Who truly was my father behind the curtain of power and fear? The mask he wore suddenly felt fragile, each crack revealing fragments of a man I didn't recognize. A grasp of panic seized my heart as I turned around, searching for Nathaniel in the dimness behind me. He would not let this go. This confrontation was just the beginning, and as dread crept back into my core, I realized Nathaniel wasn't merely a threat. He was a harbinger of the past I'd yet to confront, and in that moment, the empowering flicker of hope dimmed slightly, replaced by a new wave of uncertainty, cracking open the door to my legacy, a door I couldn't shut. Had I just made a false move, Or could my escape into the light be the first step towards unraveling the truth? The shadows loomed behind me, stretching long and sinuous, a stark reminder that Nathaniel was still hunting. Even though I had fled into the brightness of the unknown, a chilling revelation began to fester within me. Could it be that Nathaniel had known all along what my next steps would be? What other revelations awaited me at the end of this path? I could feel the ground shifting beneath me again, a chasm forming as I stood at the crossroad of family loyalty and the uncertain embrace of truth. This puzzle was far from complete, and the pieces scattered before me took on new shapes, foreboding yet magnetic. The chill of the night seeped into my bones as we stepped into the chaos of the street, the world teeming with life and oblivion, starkly contrasting the shadows that had haunted our brief reunion in the alley. Evelyn and David flanked me, their hands gripping my arms, providing a sense of togetherness amidst the tumultuous emotions swelling within me. But each beat of my heart was still laced with the dread of Nathaniel's shadows trailing behind us. "Where do we go?" David broke the heavy silence, urgency marking his voice. The street bustled around us, oblivious to the world of secrets and betrayal hiding just beneath the surface. Yet how did I know that by staying with them, I wouldn't lead danger to their doorsteps? I inhaled sharply, striving to string coherent thoughts together. "Someplace far from here," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "We have to regroup, find a safe space." But as I spoke, I realized how naive that sounded. Safe was a fading notion tangled amid the echoes of truth that persisted just out of reach. The flickering streetlights painted our faces, the warmth of their glow contrasting the chill of uncertainty that pierced my heart. Yet rooted within was a flicker of strength now, a burgeoning determination against the weight of hereditary shadows. My decision to confront Nathaniel had forced me to reconcile with the truths I had tried to bury. "Maybe we should go to someone who knows the family," Evelyn interjected, breaking through my spiraling thoughts. "There must be people your grandfather trusts. We can uncover everything together. We'll face it as a collective." A lump formed in my throat. Part of me longed for escape, a life unbranded by legacy and expectations, a chance to be my own person. But if I sought refuge in denial, wouldn't I simply sever my ties with all that mattered? I felt the urge to confide in them, to tell them that the hunger for answers gnawed at my insides like a hungry wolf, but the path was more treacherous than I ever could have imagined. If Nathaniel was to be trusted, which felt sacrilegious to even consider, then the breadth of darkness extended beyond what I was prepared to face. Could the fractures revealed tear us apart forever? "Follow me." My resolve cut through the uncertainty as I led them away from the street, fingers numb against the paper clutched tightly in my palm. Every step felt like walking on razor's edge, the anxiety wrapping tighter like a noose around my throat. We turned down a quieter alley, stepping into the shadows again, the air heavy with secrets held tightly within the iron grip of silence. The weight of Nathaniel's derision clung to me, the threat of family legacy looming overhead far too unconstraining. I glanced down at the paper wrinkling in my hands, feeling its heat against my fingertips. As we moved into deeper shadows, a wave of realization washed over me. It was not just about surviving. It was about excavating the truth swallowed by generations of deceit. What if in doing so I did lose everything? What if the only truth between us had to break before it could be mended? And just as the thoughts crashed around my mind, a flicker of light caught my eye. The neon glow of a familiar coffee shop sign beckoned through the darkness. A small sanctuary where whispers could linger unheard. "There," I pointed, heart racing at the seductive familiarity juxtaposed against discomfort. "We can talk there, get a plan together." The weary sigh of relief from Evelyn was palpable behind me. As if sensing safety in conjunction with chaos, David shoved open the door, the comforting warmth spilling over us like an embrace that nudged my defenses down just slightly. The world within held the hum of low conversations, chairs scraping against cement, a sea of ordinary moments obliviously thriving while ours teetering on the edge of collapse. As we settled around a table in the back, the clinks of mugs and the soft chatter offered anonymity, a sanctuary even if only for the night. I placed the crumpled paper in the center of the table, the hesitation thickening the air. The edges still shivered from urgent revelations left unspoken, and my eyes flicked between my companions while we were together here. The weight of trust remained tethered to unseen fractures. "What do we do?" David asked, voice hushed but urgent, dark eyes locked onto mine. "I think we need to unveil everything that Nathaniel hinted at," I said, drawing a shuddering breath. "Whatever he wrote on that paper must hold answers. From the way he spoke, it seems the shadows hold deeper connections than I've realized." Evelyn nodded fervently, her determination mirroring my own as she leaned forward, fingers brushing the paper's edge. "That means we can't let fear dictate our choices. We have to empower ourselves, face the truths no matter how buried they've been." I swallowed hard, a knot of purpose tightening within me. Together we're stronger. It's time to reconstruct our legacies. Carefully, I unfurled the paper, words that felt curdled with an eternity of hidden whispers shimmering beneath the flickering lights overhead. I steadied my breath, allowing the silence to swaddle us in its embrace, knowing that in this moment what lay before us was not merely paper. It was the first step toward reclaiming my identity, rewriting an unraveled destiny that would either embolden or devastate everything I had ever dared to know. And as the coffee shop hummed around us, a kaleidoscope of ordinary unseen echoed into the night, I felt a shift of fragile empowerment sparking from within because no matter how dark my bloodline's tale may seem, I refused to let it script my future. We were bonded by blood, but fueled by an undeniable lineage woven within shared courage. Together, we would choose the truth and the terror interlaced with it. "Let us read," I breathed, and in that instant, the emotional climax unfurled like a waking sigh. No longer just a foray into estrangement and anger, but an expedition reclaiming my essence amid the complexities of love, legacy, and personal legacy. The journey to rewrite our fate had begun, and I could finally face the shadows of my family's heritage armed with intention. And for the first time, I fully embraced the fire igniting in my chest, worthy of illumination, worthy of every ounce of connection as we stepped toward a deeper understanding of our shared past, one that would tether us through whatever darkness awaited.